بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بطلب من حضراتكم زي ما عرفتوا اسم وائل حنا وبيير جرجس تحفظوا الاسم الآتي: وليد فارس. وليد فارس للمرة الثالثة، وليد فارس. نبدأ قصتنا إن شاء الله. زي ما انتم عارفين ان تكنوقراط مصر كانت رفعت قضية ضد ترامب واختصمت فيها السيسي فيما يتعلق بتهريب 10 مليون دولار ورشوة ترامب بها. فدي كانت فرصة بالنسبة لنا ان احنا ندخل من هذا المدخل. ترامب مواطن امريكي، الرشوة. فتحنا حتة زي ما حكيت لكم انا في فيديوهين، فتحنا حتة الاختصاص القضائي فيما يتعلق بالجرائم اللي مضى عليها الفترة بتاعت التقاضي، وشرحنا ديت وقلتها لكم كذا مرة. ايه اللي حصل؟ طبعا تحريك الدعوة الجنائية مش انا اللي بحركها، انا ببعتها لمكتب المدعي العام، والمدعي العام بيشوف الكلام اللي عندي وبعد كده بينطلق من هذا الاساس. كانت النقطة المعضلة عندهم هي نقطة ان انتهى الوقت، لم يعد في صلاحية اي جهة في امريكا ان هي ممكن تفتح الملف من تاني. لا، احنا وضحنا لهم، احنا المصريين اللي ما اتولدناش في امريكا كبرنا وتعلمنا بره، فتحنا لهم حتة صغيرة كده في قانون استعملوه. كان عندهم شك في واحد معين اللي هو يربط الحلقة ما بين ال10 مليون طلعوا من البنك الأهلي فرع روكسي، اللي هم قالوا فرع هو قالوا في القاهرة، بس احنا عارفين ان هو من روكسي، ووجود ال10 مليون في ترامب. فين حلقة الوصل الصغيرة ديت؟ وجدوها في الاسم اللي قلت لحضراتكم عليه. مين؟ وليد فارس. خلينا نوريكم التقرير ترجمته، هحطوكم وبعد كده نتكلم تاني بعد هذا التقرير.
This is Michael Popak, Legal AF. Did the Egyptian government and its president try to bribe Donald Trump with a $10 million transfer into his campaign to match a $10 million loan that Donald Trump had just pumped into his campaign in the waning days of 2016 in order to get influence over the administration? Those are questions that are being asked anew by the New York Times and the Washington Post in evaluating what happened to the investigation at the time of the Robert Mueller special counsel investigation that everybody thought was focused on the Russia influence peddling. The question is whether it ignored concrete leads it had about the attempts by the Egyptian government to bail out Donald Trump with a $10 million bribe. Some people in journalism are calling it one of the greatest bribery scandals ever to rock the White House. What happened to it, and what am I talking about? Let's follow it and break it all down right here on this hot take. In the waning moments or the beginning of the 2017, after Donald Trump had been sworn in, there was apparently a $10 million attempted transfer from a bank in Egypt in Cairo, in an account that was controlled by the intelligence agency for the Egyptian government, which means it was ultimately controlled by President Fattah el-Sisi, to try to get $10 million into Donald Trump's hands after he had already blown $10 million in the waning days of his campaign. Now, some people might be scratching their head and thinking, Egypt? I thought it was always Russia collusion. Look, it's not the only foreign power that saw Donald Trump as an easy mark because of his financial vulnerability, his avarice, and his greed. And so there was a potential, according to sources who know about the FBI investigation at the time, they were focused on a potential bag man, somebody that connected the Trump campaign directly to the Egyptian bank and to the $10 million transfer. That person goes by the name of Walid Fares. Walid Fares, an Egyptian American, was also a Trump campaign foreign policy advisor. The FBI believed he would be the bag man for the $10 million transfer. It couldn't be a coincidence, I believe the running theory for the FBI was that there was a $10 million attempted payment by the Egyptian government to Donald Trump to match a $10 million loan Donald Trump had just made with his own personal funds into his account. Now, what happened? Why are we just talking about this in 2024 for things that happened in 2017? Mainly because Bill Barr, Donald Trump's lackey, was the head of the Department of Justice at the time, and ultimately killed the investigation. And Robert Mueller concluded his investigation with his findings about Russia conclusion. But when you have a National Bank of Egypt, you have the bagman within the Donald Trump campaign organization, as alleged by sources close to the FBI, and then you've got Egypt at the center. Now, Egypt. You might be thinking, haven't we just heard about Egypt's attempts to influence American politicians? And you have, because Egypt is at the heart of the corruption and bribery scandal that brought down Senator Bob Menendez from my home state of New Jersey. He of the gold bars in his closet. He took, hundreds of thousands of dollars of gold bars stored in his closet in order to try to influence policy and to get an Egyptian company with links back to the government in Cairo a halal certification monopoly. That's what happened there. So Egypt has always seen certain vulnerable American politicians, usually over their financial predicaments, and that's their Achilles heel in trying to influence improperly through bribery American foreign policy. So does it come as any surprise that while we were waiting for we're looking over here for the Russia collusion bus, the Egyptian bus came in instead? This is something that, even though some of the statute of limitations have run on some of these crimes, the Senate Democrats are being called upon to reopen an investigation and hold hearings about this bank transfer and this $10 million in attempted bribe of Donald Trump. We need to focus on these things now because people need to know the type of candidate that they're voting for. If you want to vote for a person that's been convicted of crimes, indicted of crimes, a judge to be a fraudster, a judge to be a sex abuser, I guess that's your right. That's your freedom. As Vice President Kamala Harris said, it's a fundamental freedom to vote. And you can do that. But you should also know whether he took a bribe. And the American people have a right to know whether there was a bagman within the Trump organization, whether he facilitated a payment to Donald Trump coming out of the bank controlled by the Egyptian intelligence agency, ultimately controlled by the president of Egypt. This is what happens when you put a egomaniac narcissist with financial vulnerabilities into the highest office of the world and the land. Because he can be turned and compromised. He can be turned into a Manchurian candidate because he's vulnerable. I've talked about this in various hot takes. We have a candidate for the first time in history that has put himself up for auction and for sale publicly in broad daylight. You want to buy a piece of Donald Trump? All you have to do is buy his stock with his own initials, DJT. Foreign and domestic people, attention. You want to get a piece of Donald Trump? You want to make an investment? Be an investor in his Truth Social, which has also become the vehicle for one of the greatest grifts we've ever seen. Donald Trump is not just trying to restore the Trump presidency. He's trying to restore the Trump kleptocracy, right? This is the greatest thievery we've ever seen from a family in our lifetime. And we've gotten, apparently, people in the media have gotten fatigued about it because they don't report about it enough. Once again, it shows his vulnerability, telling people he's up for sale. Mar-a-Lago, $1 million memberships up for sale. Rub elbows with Donald Trump, and you too can be the next ambassador to whatever country you'd like to go to, even though you have no diplomatic experience, even though you make handbags for a living or jewelry for a living. Fine professions, just not qualified to be a diplomat. But that's up for sale right now. It's not just the $200 sneakers with his stupid photo on it in various poses, real and imagined. It's not just that. It's bringing oil and gas executives to Mar-a-Lago over, a few months ago and telling them he's basically, his energy policy is up for sale. Give me $1 billion. This is like some sort of crazy sequel to Austin Powers. Give me $1 billion and I'll sell you the country's energy policy. He told that to oil and petroleum executives at Mar-a-Lago, right? He's selling the Truth Social vehicle is one of the greatest grift vehicles we've ever seen. You can do business with them. You can sell them contracts. You can sell them technology. You can do whatever you want. Just make sure you bail out Donald Trump. Bail out the Trump family with violations ultimately of the emoluments clause of the Constitution. Foreign policy, the ethics, domestic policy is up for sale in any future Trump White House. And this Egyptian $10 million bribery scandal story that hopefully doesn't die with this hot take and has continued to be investigated by Senate Democrats. I mean, Sheldon Whitehouse should be looking at it, and I believe is. And other Senate Democrats need to continue to investigate this till the waning days of their Congress. We'll see what happens in November. I believe Kamala Harris, who will be Madam-elect President Kamala Harris, will have very long coattails, and she'll sweep into office a majority in both the House and the Senate. I believe that with every fiber of my being. But in the meantime, there's work to be done. Joe Biden is unshackled. He's doing all the things on his Christmas list he's always wanted to do. Reform the Supreme Court. Fix immigration policy. This isn't a lame duck Joe Biden. This is a 2-week notice effort Joe Biden. And I like it. It's muscular. It's robust. Senate Democrats have to take the lead from the President of the United States and do the same thing. Right? We're not talking about phony show trials and impeachments like what the MAGA Congress has done, the do-nothing Congress has done for the last 2 years. I don't want to know more about what Hunter Biden's private parts look like. I don't want to know more about why they think one head of a department should be impeached or not, or what they continue to label the Biden crime family. Note to everyone in our audience, where is that hearing? Whatever happened to that impeachment of Joe Biden? Oh, it's no longer politically expedient to continue to go after Joe Biden because he's decided not to stand for re-election? Is that it? Obviously. Okay. So follow the money. It's Egypt, it's Trump, it's $10 million. Russia collusion, I'm sure happened. And Robert Mueller, if you read his report carefully, also believes I think it happened. But this lead that was snuffed out by Bill Barr when he headed the Department of Justice needs to be picked up again by the Senate Democrats and get to the bottom of it. We'll continue to follow all investigations that are or should be happening against Donald Trump. And as a warning, this is a warning. This is a canary in the coal mine. If you elect this guy president again, he will be emboldened. He will be emboldened to steal everything that's not nailed down in the White House and to use his office to do that and for his family. And foreign powers see him as financially vulnerable that they can exploit. That's why you don't put somebody in office who's got financial problems or always has his hand out or is financially compromised, because our foreign agents and intelligence services who work against American interests will find ways to exploit it. We'll continue.
زي ما شفتوا التقرير، وليد فارس مستشار سياسي في السياسة الخارجية في حملة ترامب 2016 له علاقات وطيدة مع الإمارات ومع السعودية، ودائما الطلوع بيطلع دائما على قناة العربية السعودية وبيدي تصريح للمجلات بتاعة الخليج بتاعة السعودية وبتاعة الإمارات. كان أدلى بتصريح بعد فوز ترامب مباشرة إن ترامب سوف يقوم بإصدار قرار باعتبار جماعة الإخوان جماعة إرهابية. وليد فارس حاليا يتم التحقيق معه من المباحث الفيدرالية الأمريكية. أعتقد دي أول مرة حد يعرف هذا الخبر. هذا الخبر جالنا امبارح على وجه التحديد، ولكن تأكدنا بعد التقرير اللي حضرتكم شفتوا. تكنوقراط مصر وحزب تكنوقراط مصر تحت التأسيس لن يترك شاردة أو واردة مما يقترفه هذا النظام إلا وسيتتبعها ولمصلحة الشعب المصري. ليه؟ لأن هذه الأموال هي أموال الشعب المصري. وتهريب الأموال القائم على قدم وساق منذ وصول السيسي بعد الانقلاب، هذا لابد من التصدي له، لأن بلدنا غنية وبإذن الله تعالى سوف تتحرر عما قريب. أنا طلعت النهاردة عشان بس أقول لكم هذه البشرة، وأرجو أن أنتم تنشروا الفيديو ده على محطات التلفزيون اللي هي بتسمي نفسها تلفزيونات المعارضة، لعل وعسى حد منهم يجيب الخبر، على الأقل يبث الأمل عند الشعب المصري. ألقاكم في لقاء آخر، شكرا، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.